So hey guys, welcome to another Warframe video, and today we're going to check out yet another companion that you can get in Heart of Deimos, and it is going to be the Panzer strain of the Vulpaphyla. Now getting this one is a little bit more complicated than the other two because it's the rarest one, and getting a weakened version of it so that you can domesticate it is somewhat tricky. The best way to do it, I think, is to simply pick up the Vulpaphyla pheromone gland from Sun for 150 standing, and then use it right before you use the lure when you're tracking a Vulpaphyla in the Cambion Drift. You also want to make sure that there is some infestation nearby, ideally a charger, because, well, you need a weakened version, so it needs to get hit by the infestation. Now for me, the best frame to do this with was Ivara, because she has invisibility, which is really good for the Panzer, because the Panzer will burrow and escape as soon as it sees you, but she also has Sleep Arrow, which will help you put the Vulpaphyla to sleep very quickly. Now, since you need a weakened version of the Vulpaphyla to domesticate it, you can't just put it to sleep and call for collection. You need to bait the infestation into hitting the Vulpaphyla first. And this is where Ivara is really good, because you can use Sleep Arrow to put the Vulpaphyla to sleep, then stand next to it, exit Cloak, and as the enemies are charging you, they will hit the Vulpaphyla and you can call for collection and get a weakened one that way. Kind of like this. And there it is, a weakened Panzer Vulpaphyla that can now be domesticated. So once you're done with that, simply head over to Sun, pick the right Vulpaphyla, add a mutagen, which will change its tail, but also its damage resistances, and the antigen, which will change its crest, but also its polarity. The one I'm going to be showcasing, by the way, is called Super Spreader, which is of course a Panzer Vulpaphyla, and I used the Desus antigen and the Fajar mutagen, and ended up with a grand total of 50 base armor, 90 base health, and 95 base shields. The Panzer comes with two precepts, the first one being Viral Quills, where the Panzer will launch 6 quills at enemies within 20 meters from an organ underneath its chin, which will do a little bit of viral damage, and they have a 40% chance to proc viral. The thing here though is that if the enemy already has viral on them, it will also inflict kind of like a mini sarin spore, which will then spread around. And it's kind of nuts. There is a reason why I call this Vulpaphyla the Super Spreader, because while it does start pretty slow, it will spit out and the viral starts stacking. Once it spits for the second time and the spores kick in, oh boy, everything's gonna have full stacked viral on it in no time. It's kind of like Hellstrom, if you've ever used that weapon on a companion, on steroids. But that's not all, because there's also a wonderful combo that you can do here with Hunter Recovery, which gives you 30% life leeching, which means that 30% of the damage your companion does is leached to you as a life. Now this also starts a little bit slow, there will be a little bit of life leech from the first spit, but once again, once the spores kick in, instead of my health going down, it will start going up, and up, and up, faster and faster and faster. Because even though the cat with my particular setup, which essentially has no damage on it, doesn't do great damage, it can spread the damage over such a large area so fast, it will end up healing you for a lot, assuming there are enough enemies to spread the spores to. Also, on a side note, this is technically a Kavat, so it can run Sharpened Claws, which can strip away the enemy armor with a single hit. And when you combine that with the 10 stack viral you get from the quells, the cat actually ends up doing decent damage. For, you know, a companion that has no damage mods, I mean. And the second precept is Panzer Devolution, where instead of dying, the Panzer will turn into a larva for 30 seconds that will hover around your shoulder, after which it will respawn back into the Panzer, making it essentially immortal, and while it is in this larva form, it will cast kind of like a watered down version of the viral quells. This is why in the end I ended up actually going with Medipet Kit for a little bit of regen and sustain on the pet, because it is much stronger alive than when it's in its larva form. Oh man, I'm kind of glad I did the Panzer last, because I feel like if I did it first, I would have been severely disappointed in the Crescent and the Sly, because you could duct tape them together so you would get the benefits of both of them at the same time, and they would still not be anywhere near as good as the Panzer. The Panzer is just fantastic, is what I imagine when you say a companion, especially one that's somewhat tricky to get, requires some, you know, weird resources and standing and sun tokens, and probably a form or two if you want to run a full build. It's great to have a companion that's genuinely noticeable during combat. You can tell that the Vulpaphyla is doing stuff, and not just because of the visuals, because, you know, everything's gonna be covered in spores, but because some enemies will have stripped armor because of Sharpened Claws, and most of them will have a full 10 stack of viral from the quills and the spores. And it's super reliable too. It's not something the Vulpaphyla will do every now and then. It will do it over and over and over again. This is one of the best companions in the game, hands down. It's great. So even though it might be a bit of a pain to get, I would definitely recommend you do so, because it is absolutely fantastic. And that is pretty much it. So I thank you very much for watching. As always guys, I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I will see you some other time. Bye bye.